Well, it looks like you found yourself down to the basement of the old abandoned video store and another edition of VHS Dreadful. I'm your host, the ghoul that's too cool for school and perpetual employee of the month, Dr. Zato. And holy snakes, did I watch a doozy of a movie today. It's a movie I have seen many times. I actually saw it in the theater, which is probably, you know, something only maybe 30 people in the entire continental United States can boast about. All right, back it up, back it in, let me begin. I gotta set the table. 1985. A cult classic horror movie called Re-Animator is released. It's about a mad scientist who puts glowing green goop into dead bodies, and they get up in there, having a whale of a tale of a time. 5 years later, I think, 1990, sounds about right, Bride of Re-Animator is released, the sequel, and in my opinion, the superior Re-Animator film. A lot of people don't agree with me, but I just think it's fantastic, the special effects. I think it handles the comedy and the horror in a more deliberate way. Unfortunately, 13 years later, I think, they decided, hey, let's go back to that Re-Animator franchise, and I'm just adjusting my hair, fully natural. Anyway, Beyond Re-Animator comes out. It is far inferior, in my opinion. It's still not a bad movie. It's a complicated movie, which is why I wanted to talk about it here today. So let's get in to Beyond Re-Animator. Basically, this movie takes place 13 years after the events of Bride of Re-Animator, and it actually opens with a flashback scene that directly connects it to Bride of Re-Animator. I thought that was actually done very well. But Dr. West, Jeffrey Combs, who was in the previous Re-Animator movies, ends up in prison. It is sort of a way of justifying why the character's just been hanging out for 13 years, because he was rotting in jail. But also his mind was working. Those mad scientists, the gears are always turning. A kid who was witness to the insanity of the previous films grows up to be a doctor, and he seeks out Dr. West. He knows the truth of what happens. The government tried to, cover it all up. There weren't zombies running around. No, that's crazy. It was the Northern Lights, the Aurora Borealis. This kid grows up, becomes the new prison doctor with Herbert West, says, let's continue the experiments. This movie does get nuts, and it's glorious. The problem is when it's not going nuts, the lead up to a lot of that stuff is just atrociously boring. Jeffrey Combs carries the movie when Jeffrey Combs is not on screen, maybe excluding that grand finale where just everything is popping off. The rest of the movie, if Jeffrey Combs is not on screen, my gaze is slowly drifting to the ceiling going, I wonder what's making that stain. There is another huge problem with this movie in that it is made by a studio in Spain using mostly Spanish actors, although I think the main guy is Irish, but they're all trying to do American accents, and it is very bad. I mean, not that I'm a connoisseur of accents. Everybody sounds weird. Everybody sounds like a space alien that's trying really hard to imitate a human being. It's a lot of like,
what is going on?
No! He's not the warden anymore.
Hi.
Hi.
And poor Elsa Pataki, who is absolutely a drop-dead gorgeous. She was so unable to affect an American accent that they just completely overdubbed her with another actress, and it's really obvious.
Who was the guy who was helping you today?
It is really obvious.
Tell me about your secret institutional medicine research, Doctor.
And I gotta say, since we're talking about Elsa Pataki, ooh, that's a fun name to say, Elsa Pataki. Elsa Pataki's House of Sausage. It is a shame that just because of the way the franchise is structured, that Jeffrey Combs is really the only connective tissue from one movie to the next, as great as he is. It would be nice to have seen Barbara Crampton somehow shoehorned back into the franchise, but there's no logical reason for characters from previous films to have carried forward, so I do understand. I'm just always wishing Barbara Crampton was in a movie, so this would have been an opportunity to maybe do that. Real quick, we'll do a fun game with the leading ladies of the Re-Animator franchise. Barbara Crampton, Fabiana Odenya? Something like that. And Elsa Pataki. Doink, marry, kill. Our leading ladies. And just so nobody feels excluded, we will do a guy's version. 1985 Jeffrey Combs, 1990 Jeffrey Combs, and 2000 whatever Jeffrey Combs. Just please keep in mind, obviously, if you choose to kill 1985 Jeffrey Combs, the other ones will cease to exist. So if you then choose marry, 1990 Jeffrey Combs, it could very easily create some sort of time-space paradox, and reality itself would crumble in on itself. So please keep that in mind when making your selection. Obviously, the leading lady version of the game poses less of a threat to quantum space-time. So I understand, but play whichever one at your own risk. Just please keep it in mind. Also, there is a character in this movie named Moses, and he is, without a doubt, one of the most visceral, in my guts, unappealing characters. It is a performance, and I don't know if it's something physical. He's got gross fake teeth in. The way he cowers and is constantly going like,
Oh God, I ain't seen him, I swear, I'm a sick man.
By the end of it, I am literally being made to feel unwell by watching that performance. I hate it. It takes this movie down a full notch, that character. I do have to give credit where credit is due, though. When this movie goes off the rails, when this movie achieves its final form, it is amazing. I forgive this movie's mistakes and missteps and characters that make me physically want to barf out my own butt. I forgive this movie for everything it does wrong, because when it boils over, it is fantastic gore, practical gore assisted with CG, which is the best kind of gore. It is off the rails goofy. That's the one thing that Re-Animator has always had going for it, is this balance of horror and comedy. And this movie, at times, not always, but when it's really churning itself up, it is perfectly blending horror, tension, comedy, creativity. The end of this movie is fantastic. I love it. And to be fair, to a lesser degree, the opening flashback scene is also a lot of fun, and it is a precursor to what comes later in the movie. Unfortunately, there's this nice big gap in the middle of the movie where just not a whole lot is going on.
Hi. Just organizing my notes.
So to give Beyond Re-Animator a final score, we of course used the most scientifically sound, Herbert West would be proud, scientifically sound rating system known to man, and that is the Kate Beckin scale. Of course, the Beckin scale was constructed on the premise that the three qualities that make up a great VHS rental are the same three qualities that make Kate Beckinsale an American treasure. She's not even American, and she's an American treasure. Deal with it. I don't care about the Pete Davidson stuff. She's a treasure. Those three qualities are bawdy, gaudy, and mirth. Bawdy is about dealing with sexuality in a comical way, and I'll say this, as much as I wasn't feeling it, this movie does have enough body where I'm going to give it to it. Gaudy is the word that I use to describe the over-the-topness of it. With a horror movie, it's about outlandish gore, special effects, creativity, and this movie has got that in spades. Mirth is the fun factor. It is the joy of watching this movie, and I almost want to not give this movie a star for mirth. But when this movie is great, it is so great that I feel like I almost have to do it. I'm feeling froggy. I'm feeling in a good mood today. On a different day, this movie might have hit me a little different, and I might have said, no, you don't get mirth. And here we have the true beauty of the Kate Beckin scale system, because this is a movie that I have very complicated feelings about. This is a movie that I would not put above a lot of other movies. But here we are, 3 stars. Somehow, this mess of a movie swept the Beckin scale. That's the beauty of the Beckin scale, my friends. The beauty of the Beckin scale. Hashtag beauty of the Beckin scale. Don't do that. Don't hashtag that. That's a terrible hashtag. That's going to be it for today, everybody. If you haven't hit subscribe, and all that other goddamn stuff that YouTube makes you do. It's a real chore, but I appreciate it when you do it. You know that whether you're a dirty dog sleeping in the sun or an alley rat eating up the night, You're always welcome at Hat Hole Home Video, you know that. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.